For adults, what they say is about 1 out of every 6 adult women and 1 out of every 33 adult men. So it is a lot less common for adult men, but that number is also a lot less sure because men just don't come forward. There is a stigma. I mean, women don't come forward too, but even more so, men don't come forward. But that's about. Did that answer your question a little bit? Okay, great. I want to just talk a little bit about myths and some facts because we hear about sexual assault, I think, a lot, but we sometimes don't quite understand like the reality of why it happened. And I'm curious, or how it happens. My little clicker is not working so well today. I'm curious how many women especially ever got an email or heard something similar to this. I'm not going to read the whole thing, and you can't even see the whole thing, but I don't know if you can see it. Has anybody ever seen something similar to this over email? The number one thing that men look for in a potential victim is a hairstyle. So don't wear your hair in a ponytail, women. Don't be on your cell phone or searching through your purse, women. Don't be out in the middle, in the evening times. Watch out for garages and grocery store parking lots. Did you ever hear any of these kinds of things? This is all bogus. It's totally not true. And I hate to say that because sometimes, we might change our behavior based on this and think we're safer, but actually this is based on the stereotype or the myth that it's a stranger that sexually assaults. 2/3 of the cases, it is someone that the victim and the perpetrator, they knew each other. They could be dating. They could be on the same dorm hall. They could be, brother's best friend or cousin's neighbor or, that kind of thing. Somehow there is some sort of relationship. So, and also what this does more importantly is this actually puts all the emphasis on the women to protect themselves. That it's our responsibility to be scared and to be careful of someone attacking us. What this doesn't do is look at why are people attacking, why is this happening, and putting equal responsibility for the safety on men and women. We need to have conversations, we need to have open, honest dialogue about why these things happen and why it's not okay. And not only how to protect yourself, but also how to get consent and how to make sure what you're doing is legal and is consensual and that kind of thing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to address in this, but anyway, I think y'all kind of get the idea. Let's talk about this idea of consent. I think this is like one of the most important slides of all the slides I have. There is actually a legal definition for consent. This is the legal definition. In order for a sexual act to be consensual, these things have to be there. First of all, the 3 things in red have to be present. The partners that are engaging in sex have to have equal, they have to be equal. So obviously if there's a weapon involved, like one person has a weapon, the other person doesn't, right? That's not equal. That's a pretty easy one to see. However, the body can be used as a weapon. Most cases actually in sexual assault, there is no actual physical weapon other than the body. Because generally, in sexual assault, if it's a man who sexually assaults a woman, that man usually has more physical strength than a woman. He might not even need to have a weapon not because he knows it's he's going to catch a charge like the last one. It has nothing to do with that. He just knows that he can hold her down, or he can threaten, he can scare, he can lie. All of that kind of thing is not equality. When someone is not telling the truth, or when they're manipulating, that is taking away that person's ability to be an equal partner and make an equal decision in whatever it is that they do. Both partners also have to give their consent to engage in a specific activity. So what I mean by this is, in the eyes of the law, sex is not all or nothing. Just because someone says yes or reciprocates, because that this whole thing about giving consent, it may not be like sitting down to a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and being like, yes, this I'll do, and this I won't, and this I'll do. People in real life don't really do that, right? Though I would say there's nothing wrong with doing that. There is no, if 2 people really like each other and they want to do that as much as they want to do it, whether they talk about it over coffee or they talk about it over beer, you know, let's talk about it over coffee. You know, they'll still want to do it. So make sure that consent is there. However, behavior can also display whether they want to continue, right? If someone is reciprocating and they're not hesitating or they're not just standing there, right? That behavior is going to demonstrate that they're okay with it. If there's any hesitation, then it is the responsibility of the other person as well to say, you don't seem comfortable with this. Are you okay with this? And sometimes people say, oh, that's going to ruin the mood, or, right? Well, the mood might be ruined for the other person already. And so it is really important to find out, based on that body language, not only what they say, but how they're displaying themselves. Does that make sense? Okay. So again, that specific activity is really important. They have to gain consent. So just because they said yes to like kissing and making out doesn't mean that they want to automatically go all the way or do whatever it is the other person wants to do. You have to find out whether they are okay with whatever it is that they're wanting to do. And they also have to give their consent at the moment the activity is going to take place. And what this means is that people can change their mind. Let's say two people had sex before and they break up, or whatever, they decide they don't want to have sex again. They have that right. Or even if they talked about it, let's say they did sit down to a cup of coffee. They took my advice. They sit down to coffee. They decide, this is it. We're going to do it this night. This is how it's going to happen. And then whatever the heat of the moment happens, and they change their mind. Maybe they were sexually assaulted in the past and they thought they could move on with it. They thought they could deal with it. And then in the heat of the moment, all those memories come rushing back and they're like, no, I'm not ready. They have a right to change their mind at that moment. And y'all, I know that that's difficult. I recognize that. But we are all biologically able to stop ourselves. Okay? A lot of times people say, well, I couldn't stop. I was turned on and I had to keep going. No. I mean, I know I tend to be kind of blunt, but I think I need to be blunt. Like, if somebody can't stop themselves, they can go out in the other room, take care of the business, and come back. Okay? I mean, I know that's kind of funny, but it's better to do that than to force someone to go further than what they want to do. Okay? No one is going to explode inside and die if they, I didn't mean that to be graphic. We're adding a little levity to our discussion here. So anyway, those three things, okay? They have to be equal, they have to give consent for a specific act, and at the moment the activity is going to take place. These things also have to be there. Both people have to be fully conscious. In other words, one person can't be passed out.